Welcome to the Habit-Based Lifestyle Podcast. Use the power of discovering new habits to create success in all areas of life. Body, fitness and nutrition, being, spirituality, passion and purpose, balance, marriage, kids and relationships, business, marketing, sales, leadership and systems. Transform your life by learning how habits work. And now your host, a husband, father, entrepreneur, trainer, coach, and warrior, Jesse Ewell.
Welcome back to the Power Couples episode, and I am your host, Katie Ewell, and I am here today with a very special guest, my sexy husband, Jesse Ewell. Welcome, Jesse.
Oh, thank you, Katie.
You're welcome. And today we're going to be talking about
the habit. Not really habit. Yeah, I guess it can be the habit, but of blame.
That's such a habit. So
yeah.
All I can say is thank you all for loving my introduction. That was my first one. And I actually sometimes lay in bed because Jess has run through my head and I lay in bed and I practice that. And so I was so excited to just announce.
There you go. Well, you did a great job. I might hand it over to you.
Well, I don't know about that.
Okay. So we're going to be talking about the habit of blame. And we're going to be rolling out a challenge at the end of this called the no blame game.
Okay.
So blame often comes up in relationships and, specifically inside of marriage. And it's typically what the other person is not doing. And so we tend to kind of play two games. We play the blame game and then we play the victim game.
Yes.
And can you talk a little bit from your experience on the blame game or victim game and kind of what you see on your side and maybe a personal story and I'll share mine. But yeah, can you kind of talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Let's see. The freshest one in my mind is, now that we're kind of all locked in together, the kids have been staying up later. And I put Jossie to bed, and Jossie will stay up all hours of the night. I mean, with us. And so you're looking at me like you're really scared where this is going.
I'm not scared of anything.
So Joss we'll all kind of go to bed at the same time. And so, the other night, my husband was upset that I put Jossie to bed and Jess and I love to go to, well, my husband, I should say. I won't use his name, but we love to
Babe
and I love to go to bed at the same time. But
why do we love to go to bed at the same
connection
time?
To talk about our day.
Intimacy.
Yes.
Cuddling,
all of those amazing things that we couples do at night together. And so, yeah, this week it's been a bit of a shift. And so we've been staying up. We've been watching movies. Jesse still gets up and is able to go to work. But the kids and I can sleep in and start school a little bit later. So anyway, fast forward to, I don't know, maybe it was night 3. Okay. Of me putting Jossie to bed.
Not that I was counting.
No, not at all. And, so, oh my gosh. And so we read a book and then Joss likes to talk for a minute. And then I typically get on my phone and she'll fall asleep because she gets bored of whatever I'm doing. And so anyway, fast forward to then she's asleep and I come in and the other night, Jess, I got in bed and Jess had already been asleep, or I thought he was asleep, or maybe he was faking asleep. I'm not really sure. But he says, I don't even remember how you said it, but you were a little upset. You were playing this blame game and you said something about, blaming me for not coming to bed with you. And that's our time to connect and whatnot. And then it went as far as, and then if I think you're asleep, I'm not kissing you goodnight and I need to be kissing you goodnight. And so, which opened up a great conversation of then me realizing, like, this is a really good learning story of me realizing that, okay, yes, I do need to put Jocelyn to bed earlier so we can be like, I get it. But we tend to go to a place of, and I think we've walked through this and we literally we kind of laugh about it now. And it was really funny because we had talked about this, and this happened the night after you rolled out this blame thing. And when you said to me, you know,
I think it was actually that night.
And so you're literally blaming me. And I bit my tongue, but I wanted to say, wow, honey, like, are we focusing on the blame rule? But I mean, in all honesty, I mean, it happens. And a lot of times we don't realize.
Well, I don't know if I really blamed you. I maybe just played the victim.
Okay. Well, whatever. I mean, either way, I think it was really good for both of us. But I love where this is going to go, because you're going to talk about how we can, you know, well, you're going to teach on it, but how we don't have to go to blame. And for me, I think a lot of times, and I was totally happy, it's really owning where we're at with situations like that. And yes, we go to blame in a place of sometimes feeling sorry for ourselves.
Yeah, or maybe even our feelings being hurt and then not talking about that instead. And
on night 3, typically is what you hold it in.
Coming out as like, hey, there's this thing that keeps kind of coming up that's really bothering me.
Yes.
And it's this. Right. You know, and so instead we, you know, maybe play victim, or I played victim, and you know, I don't know if I blamed you, but it's not really any different. It's like you're either a victim and you're blaming someone else, or you're creating something, and you know, I was a victim. And
well, I think it depends on, for me, I guess I only say blame because it felt like, you know, looking on my side here, I was putting Jossie to bed, whatever, but you were in the room, like, it, you know, I mean, there was something stirring inside of you that you didn't speak out. So for me, it was like, you know, it's putting blame on, but you're right. It could definitely be.
Well, putting blame on us not spending time together or being together in bed. Right. It's like, well, you're doing this, so obviously you don't have time for me.
Right. Yeah. I forgot about that part. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good part.
That was good.
So so you know, a lot of times inside of relationships, we tend to blame the other person for what they're not doing, or maybe how they're showing up. And a lot of times, you know, when we do that, we're all of a sudden giving away our power in the situation. And what we're doing is becoming a victim of our own circumstance. And, you know, I think with where people are at today with being home more, you know, I think this is something that's pretty normal for people. And a lot of people, they get used to, you know, blaming. They get used to playing the victim.
It's easier to blame than it is to.
Instead of, you know, actually creating the result that they actually want, they'll go to, you know, I mean, you hear it all over the news right now. It's like, oh my gosh, the world's going to end. We're inside. We're doing all these things. And we start blaming other people instead of, hey, what could I do to change my circumstance? Or, you know, and I'll even go back to that night for me is I wasn't thinking in that logical state of what could I do to change this? Maybe I could just go in and give my wife a kiss or tell her I want her to come to bed with me or whatever. Instead, you know, I was kind of acting like a baby and, you know, but I did get out of bed and go downstairs and kind of like do a couple of exercises and then went and drank some water and then went back upstairs.
Exercises?
To kind of, which is what we're going to go through today, just to kind of calm down, like push-ups.
Okay, I was a little worried for a minute.
But what we're going to create today is a rule for the next 7 days, or we're going to play a game for the next 7 days. You are going to go to a place of, you know, you're going to want to blame your spouse because this is just the reality. You know, you throw kids into the mix, throw business into the mix.
Homeschooling, yeah.
It's chaos. Like it's the triangle of chaos. Kids, your own business, and marriage. That's really the triangle of chaos. And so there's always something going on between those three. And it's not a bad thing. It's just, it's a lot of extra stress and pressure, especially knowing that kids are home now more than they ever have. And we don't even know if they're really going back to school in the next month, next, couple weeks or what. So just knowing that, we want to equip you with this 7-day no blame game. Because what this is going to do is going to allow you to get some space when you want to go to blame. Like if I want to go to blame Katie, I'm going to have to go through this whole process. If she wants to blame me, she's going to have to go through it too. And then we're going to come out of it. And what's the best thing about it is that, like, last night we went to bed and you fell asleep in my arms and we,
Well, right. You I heard you.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's what any spouse really wants is just open communication. If you haven't heard that podcast episode,
go on the previous one
because it's also talking about what we want. And yeah, so last night, basically it was an easy shift of if Jocelyn didn't fall asleep in, this certain amount of time, then I was just going to go to bed. And so, yeah, for sure. You didn't even have to.
Yeah. Look at that. All right. So let's go through the process so this is, if you're looking to shift. So when we go to blame or we want to go to victim, we're going to smile. And so Katie's going to smile just to kind of like envision yourself smiling. I'm smiling. She's smiling. Yes, you're actually going to put a smile on your face. So you got to keep smiling. All right. Then we go to softening your eyes. And as you soften your eyes, you can be like, dude, what the hell? How do I soften my eyes? But there is a way for you to actually do that. And it's not raising them up. And the next thing you're going to do is actually take a deep breath. So
Sometimes
a lot
I
of
think
times
I might need the deep breath first.
Yeah. A lot of times breathing takes us, from outside of ourselves in the past or the future and kind of brings us back into the present moment. And a lot of times when we're in blame, when we're in victim, there's either a past issue or maybe a future based issue that we might be having a problem with. So breathing into our belly brings us back down to, this present place. And then what we're going to do is really locate the resistance. So, a lot of this, anger, blame, resentment, all those things, victim is just stuck energy in the body. And if you're really in this place to where breathing doesn't get you out of it, you can kind of go into locating where that resistance is. And I always think of like anger is just stuck energy. And a lot of times that's what happens after we go to blame is the next thing is we get, angry, we get upset, we get frustrated, but just finding that stuck energy in your body and locating it. So, maybe you may have it in your chest right now. So you just put your hand on your chest and you would just work on breathing in that place. Now, if your energy is really stuck and it's not working, the best thing for you to do, and what I like to do is to go physically move because the way that we remove stuck energy is either like to breathe and let it pass through, or we do some type of physical exercise where you might do 10 push-ups, 10 squats. Maybe if you're really angry, 10 burpees might be the best thing for you. And then, maybe having the conversation at that point, but this also works really well with kids.
Yes.
So if you tend to kind of go to that place, even if you're frustrated with kids, it's a great way for everybody just to like drop and do some push-ups or burpees and kind of gets us out of that place. But here's the thing is this is something that does work, but it does also take practice. And I'm not going to lie. I could have used this the night that we rolled it out. But I completely forgot about it.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, I completely forgot about it in the moment.
Right.
And then however I came back to it, I'm like, oh shit, I'm just going to go do some push-ups and squats downstairs and then get some water and come back up and go to bed. But if I would have used this in that moment in time, I can tell you that I would have probably came out of it. Same result, but probably I would have been able to get to that result that night versus the next night.
Right. And I also like when you're talking about all these steps, I'm kind of like, when I am ready to blame, like I feel like I'm kind of not out of my mind, but a little bit. So, I mean, if you can adapt one of these or two of these to just start, it's huge. I mean, for me, just stopping in the moment and realizing like, okay, this is not where I want to go. I'm not, I don't need to blame my spouse or my kids or someone else, taking that deep breath. And a lot of times for me, I need space.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I truly like all of this.
So the number one way we could create space is we breathe.
Right.
We maybe step away from whatever we're currently doing.
Yes.
And that gives us the space. And so maybe those are two things. Now, like, I like physical stuff and physical action. And so sometimes just me being able to move and do some push-ups or burpees, that would shift me right away, and I would be fine after that.
So if we're out on date night at a restaurant and you're about to blame me for something,
or I'm getting frustrated or maybe angry about something.
Maybe you wouldn't want to jump up from the table and start doing burpees.
Maybe I'll do some squats or be like, hold on, I'm going to go to the restroom.
Okay. Here, that's better.
I'm going to, go in the restroom and maybe do some squats or push-ups or something. Another
thing that I think could be super helpful, if you talk to your spouse about this prior to is, working together on something like this. So, and not being like, hey, like strike one, you just blamed me, but more of like, okay, like I see that
let's do some partner squats right now.
I see you're frustrated and you're choosing to blame me right now, but maybe you need to go smile and take a deep breath and do some burpees. I think it's whenever we do stuff like this, coach on it, whatnot, like we're always holding each other accountable in some way, and I think that really helps because a lot of times in the moment you can lose it all.
Yeah, it's easy. And I think the important thing is to be able to shift in the moment,
right?
And shift to a different state. And the way that we can often shift into a different state is either by breathing or by moving,
right?
Or doing both, moving and breathing. And so sometimes just having someone there to be like, hey, kind of go into that place. Let's together do some push-ups or burpees or squats, and let's get out of it together.
Right. Or maybe, yeah, exactly. Or maybe it just gets intense and you just say, hey, could you smile?
Yeah, that always works for me really well. So, let's wrap this up in a practical way is, if you want to blame, if you get angry, you get frustrated, like these are really simple tools, but don't underestimate the power of them because, the power of smiling, it's pretty hard to be angry and smiling at the same time. And in fact, I think it might be impossible. And the other thing is not only that, it's easy to breathe. That always brings us kind of back to the present moment, and anybody can do 10 push-ups, 10 squats, whatever it is. But all three of those are ways that you can begin to shift the current state that you're in out of that and into a new state.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that, what a huge accomplishment to walk through that, like yourself, you know what I mean? And like in your marriage, in relationships with communication, like to be able to realize, and then, this takes what, 2 minutes?
Yeah, and I don't even know if it takes that.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you're back to, okay, let's have this conversation. And, I would take this even farther to say even more like props to you if you can come back and say, you know what, that wasn't like me blaming you wasn't the answer. Like, I get that, and talking through that. Sometimes I think the biggest thing too after is owning it.
Yeah.
And then talking through it with your spouse.
Yeah, which is, it's like we talked about it and we changed up what we're doing, and then, we both got what we want. So yeah, well, thanks for
no, thank you for being on the Power Couples.
Yeah, why don't you close us out today?
Well, first of all, I just want to say if you haven't joined our Facebook group on Facebook, it's Power Couples Movement. Join us there and all other amazing power couples that are in there. We're dropping podcasts. We're going live. We're giving you tools and tricks and tips to just taking your marriage to the next level. And if you want to connect with us anywhere else,
on Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn or any other platform, even TikTok,
Wow. Yes.
You can find us there, and we'll have the links in the show notes. Until next episode, have
an amazing day.